Greetings, good people. We meet once again. We continue with animal nutrition. The last time we were looking at the 5 fundamental processes that takes place in a digestive system of a farm animal. Allow me to introduce or to deal with this part whereby we will look at the classifications of farm animals. And when we look at the classifications of farm animals, we will categorize them into two. You will see how we categorize them because we say we have ruminants and non-ruminants. So what I want you to take note of in this part is that when we look at the classification of farm animals, the first thing or the key part in understanding this concept, you must focus on the stomach of the farm animal. Once we focus on the stomach of the farm animal, we will then move on and look at the type of feed the farm animal can ingest or can feed on. Then we will look at the examples of these types of animal. But the most important thing, be able to identify, be able to classify or categorize it if you are given in a question. Mostly they give it in 2.1 of your paper 1. Let us look at these differences. When we classify farm animals, we classify them into two good people. We have ruminant animals and non-ruminant farm animals. Let us look at the difference here. When we look at ruminant animals, we say these are animals that have a complex stomach. In some cases, you'll find that they will say they have a compound stomach. What do we mean? We can also say they have a polygastric stomach. Okay, fine. Let's try to look at it in this way. If we say a ruminant have a complex stomach, we simply talk about those animals that we can say they have 4 chambers. Their stomach is divided into 4. We will look at these stomachs as we move along, and we will also highlight the examples of these animals. So when we look at ruminant animals, we are saying they have a complex stomach. In a simpler way, what do we mean? We simply mean that they have a polygastric stomach. If you try to come with me here, the poly means many. So we can say they have many stomachs, but specifically we say they have 4 chambers. Okay, fine. Let us take note of the other part, non-ruminant animals. The non-ruminant animals, we say they have a simple stomach, or one can say they have a single stomach, or you can say they have a monogastric stomach. Take note of the mono part. Mono means 1. So what does it mean? It means the non-ruminant animals, they have only 1 or single stomach, but we will then try to go deeper when we talk about a chicken and check how is the fowl different from a pig. Let us understand it here. Ruminant animals, they have a complex stomach. Non-ruminant animals, they have a simple stomach. Or you can say ruminant animals have a polygastric stomach, meaning many stomachs. But when we look at non-ruminants, they have monogastric 1 stomach. Mono means 1, gastric, you can say it's stomach. Let us look at the second difference, good people. When we look at the second difference, we say a ruminant animal can regurgitate, whereby we say it's chewing the cud. So if we say a ruminant animal can regurgitate, we will go deeper with this statement. So this is the process whereby the animal is able to bring back food into the mouth for proper chewing, whereby we call it chewing the cud. So you will understand that there are some animals that ingest food, they swallow it it goes into the stomach, we'll check that stomach whereby it is the rumen. It also goes to the reticulum. Then it is taken back to the mouth for proper chewing. Then we can say the process whereby the food now goes back, or the stage whereby the food goes back to the mouth, we say that is what? That is regurgitation. So we say in this case, a ruminant animal can regurgitate, while a non-ruminant animal cannot regurgitate. I think when we talk about this one, now you can think that, okay, which are those animals that can regurgitate and which are those animals that cannot regurgitate. I think you can put it in your mother tongue language. How can you understand, or the name that we use for regurgitation? The last difference I want you to note, we say a ruminant animal can feed on cellulose. If we say a ruminant animal can feed on cellulose, one can say a ruminant animal can feed on grass. One can say a ruminant animal can feed on hay. One can say a ruminant animal can feed on crude fiber. So meaning a ruminant animal, it is that animal that can eat grass. There is a lesson that I will deliver whereby we look at why the ruminant animal can eat grass and why the non-ruminant animal cannot eat grass, whereby we look at the adaptation of the animal in the matter of eating grass, and we look at the adaptation of the non-ruminant in the matter of not being able to feed on cellulose. So we are saying in the last difference, ruminant animals can feed on cellulose, while a non-ruminant animal cannot feed on cellulose. That is the difference that I want you to note in this matter. Then, good people, let us look at some examples. It's very important to know the example. You can now think, okay, which animals can eat grass and they can also regurgitate? Which animals cannot eat grass? We will look at it in this manner. For ruminant animals, the animals that we will study about here in our syllabus, our curriculum, we look at cow, we look at goat, we also look at sheep. You can say cattle for a cow. Okay, fine. So this is how I want you to master it. Let us try to understand it. Complex. Ruminant, we say they have a complex. Non-ruminant, simple stomach. Ruminant, we say they can regurgitate. Non-ruminants, they cannot regurgitate. Ruminants, they can feed on cellulose. Non-ruminants, they cannot feed on cellulose. I will make sure that I go deeper and check why the non-ruminant cannot feed on cellulose. Then you must master the examples again, cow, goat, and sheep. Okay, fine. This is what we say. Simple, single stomach, or else monogastric. Cannot regurgitate, cannot feed on cellulose. Then we will ask why. And if I can just highlight it to you here, for an animal to digest the cellulose, they require microorganisms. So when you look at a non-ruminant animal don't have microorganisms. Why they don't have microorganisms? Because we have to understand that microorganism can be found in a reticular rumen, the rumen and the reticulum. So a non-ruminant do not have those two chambers. As a result, they do not have microorganisms that are able to digest cellulose. So they cannot feed on cellulose because they are unable to digest them. But when you come to the matter of, or to the case of ruminants, they do have a reticular rumen. Since they have a reticular rumen, it means they have microorganisms. Those microorganisms that are able to digest the cellulose, or to digest the grass into different products that we will talk about as we move along, whereby we talk about reticular rumen digestion. Then you can look at the example. We talk about a pig, we talk about a fowl, we can say it's a chicken. So make sure that you master these differences. The most important thing, good people, is to make sure that you are able to identify them if they are shown in a diagram. That's the very most important thing. Let us try to look at this part. We have this alimentary canal or this digestive system. If, good people, you try to go with me here, I even gave you the subheading alimentary canal of a cow. Remember, a cow is an example of a ruminant. If it's an example of a ruminant, remember, we said a ruminant, when you look at the stomach, we said a ruminant have 4 chambers, or they have a complex stomach which is polygastric, many chambers or many stomachs. If you look at this one, here we have 4 chambers, good people. 1, we have the rumen. 2, we have the reticulum. 3, we have the omasum. 4, we have the abomasum. So when we look at this one, we say this is a ruminant. Why we say it's a ruminant? It's because this kind of an animal have how many chambers? Have 4 chambers, meaning the kind of stomach that it has, we say it's a polygastric stomach. Type of animal, ruminant. Why we say it's a ruminant? Because it has 4 chambers. Example of the animal, you can say cow, you can say sheep, you can say pig, or you can just say cattle. Can it feed on cellulose? Yes. Reason, we will look at it later. Okay, fine. Allow me to look at this one. Allow me to look at the next one. Alimentary canal of what? Of a fowl. When we look at an alimentary canal of a fowl, we remember we said a fowl is a non-ruminant animal. If we say it's a non-ruminant animal, in a way of understanding it in a simpler way, we say it has a simple stomach or monogastric. When we look at this one, a fowl, good people, it has a stomach, but this stomach is divided into 2. We have this part whereby we can call it a glandular. You can also call it a proventriculus. Then we have this stomach. They said it's a gizzard. You can also call it what? A ventriculus. We say it's one stomach, but that is divided into 2. We will look at the difference between a pig and a fowl as we move along. But understand that when we look at a fowl, this is how we have to understand it. But then another thing, we will look at we will go on to look at the large intestines of a fowl, comparing it with those of a pig and a cattle, whereby we'll try to master the differences. So what I want you to understand, that when you look at this one, just know that it's what? It's a fowl. But then they cannot show you the head, because the head, it simply shows that, okay, this one is a chicken. Let us look at the one of what? Of a pig. When we look at a pig, good people, a pig, we say it has 1 stomach. Once we say it has only 1 stomach, it simply means that it's what? It's a non-ruminant. So when you look at it here, it's only 1 stomach. So if it's 1 stomach, it means it's a non-ruminant. Remember, can it regurgitate? No, it cannot regurgitate. It is what? It is a monogastric stomach. That's how I want you to master this one. That's how I want you to master this one. Okay, fine. The farm animals are categorized or are classified into 2, ruminants and non-ruminants. Those that are ruminants, we say they have complex or compound stomach, 4 chambers. The non-ruminants have a simple stomach or monogastric. When you look at a ruminant, you must see 4 chambers. When you look at a non-ruminant, there must be only 1 stomach. But take note of a chicken. There is 1 stomach, but that is divided into 2. Let's get to this important part. Okay, fine. These are alimentary canals of farm animals. When you look at the alimentary canals of these farm animals, there are 3. 1 stomach represents a chicken, which is a fowl. 1 alimentary canal represents a pig. Another one represents cattle, a cow, or else a sheep or a goat. Let us work together in classifying these animals. Take note of this part. When a question says classify the type of animal, when a question says classify the type of animal, you have 2 options. It's whether you say it's a ruminant or non-ruminant. That's how you can answer it. In this case, let us start by classifying them. So we are saying, when they say classify, 2 options that we have. Whether we say ruminant or we say non-ruminant. Clear on that one? Clear on that one? Okay, let us classify them. We look at the diagram, which is the first one, diagram 1. We have to tell whether it's a ruminant or a non-ruminant. Before we get there, remember, when we talk about a ruminant animal, 4 chambers. When we talk about a non-ruminant, it must be 1 stomach. Let us look at them. Diagram 1. This is a kind of farm animal that have a complex stomach. Since it has a complex stomach, you can check. We have different stomachs here. B, it's a stomach. We will talk about the stomach. Your C, it's another stomach. Your D, it's another stomach. Your E, it's another stomach. So what does that mean? It means diagram 1, it has how many chambers? 4 chambers. So it's a complex or compound or else polygastric. So if it has many stomachs, we can agree together to say it's a ruminant animal. Okay, thank you. Let's look at diagram 2. Diagram 2, when you look at it, we focus on the stomach. We say this is 1 stomach, but then it's divided into 2. I will give you a short summary in identifying this part, or in identifying this part. This is a stomach that is divided into 2. The one that we say there is a proventriculus and a ventriculus. Pro means before ventriculus, then we have the ventriculus, which is your granula and the gizzard. So since we have 1 stomach here, remember the type of animal or the classification that we said it has only 1 stomach or a simple stomach. Ruminant or non-ruminant? We then say it's what? It's non-ruminant. What about the 3rd one? You look at the stomach. That's the first thing that I want you to note when they say classify. You look at the stomach. How many stomachs do you see here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. You only see 1. Ruminant or non-ruminant? It's a simple stomach. So we say it's a non-ruminant. So that's how I want you to master it. Whenever they say classify, think about these 2 options, ruminant or non-ruminant. And then you look at their stomachs. If you see 4 chambers, then it means it will be what? It will be a ruminant. If you see only 1 stomach, it means it will be a non-ruminant. Question number 2 that you can get. They can then say, provide a reason. Provide what? A reason. The reason that they want, it is the one that made you to say it's a ruminant, it's a non-ruminant. When you look at this one, ruminant, we said number 1, it's a ruminant because it has how many chambers? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can say it has 4 chambers. It has a polygastric stomach. It has a complex stomach. Simple. Diagram 2, it has a simple stomach. Diagram 3, it has a simple stomach. You are done. Another question that you may get, they may say, give an example of diagram 1, diagram 2, diagram 3. You get the question. Give an example of diagram 1, diagram 2, diagram 3. It's a ruminant. So which animal we said it's a ruminant? Remember, we talked about a cow. We talked about a goat. We also talked about what? A sheep. Diagram 2. Now it's very important to note the difference between diagram 2 and 3. I will explain them just now. But we say, diagram 2 is the fowl, which is the chicken. Diagram 3, it's whereby you talk about the pig. That's what I want you to note. Classify, provide the reason, provide the example. You must know when they say classify, which options will you opt for. When they say provide the reason, you try to bring the definition. We say it's a ruminant because it has complex stomach. We say it's a non-ruminant because it has a simple stomach. That is your reason. Okay, allow me to talk about this part before we call it a day on this one. Let's focus on diagram 2 and diagram 3. When you look at diagram 2 and 3, 2, both of them we say that they are non-ruminants. But then, let us try to look at the differences between these two farm animals. Okay, but I know that some of the parts you're not aware of, but I will try to highlight it to you. When you look at this one, you have the A here, it's your esophagus, same as B here is the esophagus. When you look at this part, we call this part a crop. Take note of this part. When we look at this one, this is the simple stomach. So from the esophagus, if you look in the matter of a chicken, from the esophagus, there is an enlargement of the esophagus which we call a crop. We'll look at the function later. So it means a chicken, there is a crop, while in a pig, there is no crop. That's where you master the differences. In a chicken, there is a presence of a crop. In a pig, there is no crop. 2. We focus on these stomachs. We say it's one stomach, but that is divided into 2, whereby we say that the first one, it is what? It is the proventriculus. The second one, it is the ventriculus. I will highlight the other names that are given, which is the granula and the gizzard. Okay, fine. So when you look at this one, in a fowl, there is one stomach that is divided into 2. But when you look at what? At diagram 3, which is a pig, there is only one stomach. It's not divided. That's another difference. A fowl or a chicken, there is one stomach that is divided into 2. A pig, it's just a simple stomach. That is difference number 2, good people. Let's go to the large intestines and look at the other difference. When you focus on the large intestine, we have this part which is G. We can call this one a double caeca. If we call this one a double caeca, you come to D of this one, we call it a caecum because it's singular. What is the difference between the two structures? Thank you. In a chicken diagram 2, part G, it's a double caeca. It's in double. But when you look at part D here in a pig, it's just a single caeca. It's a single caecum. So the main difference here is that when you look at a chicken, the caecum must be in a double part. If you look at it, it must be in this format. It must be in a double way. But when you look at a pig, it's just a single one. 3 differences so far. Presence of a crop in a fowl, absence of a crop in a pig. In a fowl, one stomach that is divided into 2. In a pig, there's just one stomach. In a fowl, the caeca is double. In a pig, it's just one caeca, a single caeca. The last part, you look at your part here, which is I, whereby we call it a cloaca event. But here in diagram 3, we call it an anus. 4 parts that you can highlight there. But we will come back and look at these structures whereby we try to provide labels for them. Okay, fine, good people. I know that I've taken your time. But what I want you to understand, be able to classify the farm animals to ruminants and non-ruminants. Be able to provide the reason why this one we say it's a ruminant, why this one we say it's a non-ruminant. Ruminant, complex stomach. Non-ruminant, simple stomach. Be able to provide an example for chambers, 1 stomach. Be able to identify it in a diagram. Then for the non-ruminants, the pig and the fowl, be able to master the differences between the two. We will get to some of the questions whereby we will be going deeper and try to understand all of it. But then that's what I wanted you good people to master here. We will, in the next lesson, we will now go deeper and look at the alimentary canal of a cow. We look at the part function together with its adaptability. We go to the fowl, same thing. We go to the pig, same thing. But as for now, be able to identify it. There's no way you can study animal nutrition. You can study the animals without animal studies without being able to make a difference between these 2 categories. Okay, fine, good people. Thank you. Let's make sure that we watch it several times for us to understand it in an easier way. Thank you, good people.